Hey guys, Carl from Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the 18-card game ExoShip from designer Kevin Sylves and publisher We Heart Games. This is a sort of spatial puzzler of a game in which you find yourself as part of a rebellion on an interplanetary ship trying to colonize a new planet, and you're physically sort of manipulating this tableau of cards, turning those people to your side while ultimately trying to change the destination of that spaceship. Disclaimer, I was given a preview copy of this game from the publisher, but as always, I will do my best to give you my own honest opinion on the game. With that said, let's head down to the table to see how this one plays, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a game of ExoShip, begin by taking the 5 event cards, double-sided event cards, giving them a shuffle, and now I did say because they're double-sided, as I'm shuffling, I will flip some of them over at random, and then placing those 5 cards across the top of the player area. Next, take the Origin Earth card and place that to the left side of this event row. And then finally, on the other side, in the same way, take this Destination Mariposa card, place that to the right side of the main row. Next, we're going to take the La Oruga ship card and place that so that this arrow lines up with the arrow on the Origin Earth card like this. And then finally take the stack of Founders cards with the Directorate side face up. The other side is the Orange Rift side. With the Directorate side face up, giving these cards a good shuffle. And then filling La Oruga with 2 people per generation on the ship. So I'm going to place 2 elders, 2 midlife, and 2 young cards out on the ship. Like this, and then finally the remaining cards just get placed off to the side. And with that, we are all set up for gameplay. Now before I get into gameplay, I want to read you the little blurb of story in the sort of instruction manual, because the mechanisms of the game will play out sort of according to that story, so it will be interesting for you to know that. So the story says, the massive starship La Oruga was destined to carry thousands of people to the distant exoplanet Mariposa, establishing the first human base outside our solar system. This trip will take nearly 200 years to complete, with several generations of crew and passengers being born, living, and dying before arrival. However, the ship's government, the Directorate, has become increasingly authoritarian and resistant to change, even as it becomes clear that the destination planet is already inhabited with intelligent life. You are the head of Rift, a resistance movement trying to convince enough founders to seize control of the ship and change its destination. So knowing that story, the purpose of this game is that by the time La Oruga reaches the destination, I need to have swayed enough Directorate into Rift members along with myself, and doing so change the destination from Mariposa to Axios so that we don't try and colonize the already inhabited planet. And if I'm able to get to Axios or have the destination change to Axios and have enough Rift members in my sort of group of founders on the ship at that time, I will have won. And I'll explain a little bit more about how that works as I get into gameplay. But first things first, looking at the ship card, you can see sort of the breakdown of a round, the different phases in the round. And we are going to be traveling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places, including the origin spot, which means I'm going to be having 7 rounds in this game in order to complete my sort of goal of changing the destination and swaying enough members into my sort of alliance side. And in each of those rounds, we're going to follow through the phases on this card, except in the first round, we will not move because we are starting at the origin space. But normally we're going to move, which I'll explain in just a minute when we get into the second round. And then events are going to trigger based on what it shows on the card where this ship is currently located. Then I'm going to take a variety of different actions, 2 per round, unless it says otherwise in the event. And then finally, we're going to trigger the suspicion phase. So let me sort of walk you through the first round and sort of show you all of the different things that's going to happen in each round. Again, we are skipping the move turn or the move phase in the first round. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the event. And this card says, Seeds of Discontent. It says, sway the lowest ranked founder in the generation of your choice. So in this game, there are 3 different generations. There is the elder generation, the midlife generation, and the young generation. and the ranks sort of decrease as you move down a specific column. So this is the highest rank, young generation. This is right now the lowest rank, young generation. And it says I'm going to sway the lowest rank founder in the generation of your choice. It means I can sway any of these three characters, any one of these three characters, to the rift side of the card. And that simply just means to flip it over to the rift side of the card. And the reason I'm going to want to do that is because in the future, after I'm done this event phase, I'm going into the action phase. And the first step of the action phase, or the first available action to me, is the sway action. And the way that that works is I can simply sway a directorate founder following the arrow on an already swayed rift founder. So for example, if I had her swayed already, for an action following this arrow here, I could then use an action to sway this founder as well. So in this first step, when I am swaying the lowest rank founder, I do want to keep that in mind because I want to be able to sway other founders around me. The next action that I will be able to do instead of using just a normal sway action is any card that is on the rift side, any founder that is part of the rift, has abilities on them that I can activate, and using that ability counts as one action. So let me quickly show you the 6 abilities on the cards that I currently have, and I'll explain more as we go through and see more. First, we've got here El Montero says, public consultant, move any elder founder to the midlife generation. And it's worth noting that when we move from one generation to another, that person always gets placed in the lowest rank of that generation. Next, we've got Sebas Kim, Chief of Police, says discard the lowest rank founder in the generation of your choice. Eduardo Serra, Labor Union President, replace any adjacent founder. Pax Mejia, Ship's Navigator, says flip the next card along the timeline, and the timeline is my event card row at the top. I've got Natalia Wu, which says psychiatrist, the influence arrow on this founder points in the direction of your choice. So I can choose which direction she's pointing to sway. And then finally, the last of the original founders that I have is Valentina Rojas, beloved icon, that says the influence arrow on one rift founder points in the opposite direction this turn. So putting those back out as they were. There are 2 other actions to mention while I'm going through the different actions. The next action is, as I have a rift founder, I can always discard a rift founder and replace them with the top card of the deck as a rift founder as well. And then finally, the 4th action, and the most important action at some point in the game, is if this first sort of high rank elder card, this is the captain card, the topmost leftmost card is my captain. If my captain is on the rift side, I can choose to discard a rift side captain to change my destination to the other side, to the Axios destination. And again, I cannot win the game unless that happens before I reach my destination. Then, after all of that is done, this is very important to know ahead of time, is that any rift founders that are being pointed at by a directorate founder will be suspicious or will be under suspicion, and that card is actually going to be discarded from the tableau because they've been caught by the directorate. So for example, at the end of a turn, after taking my actions, if Sebas Kim was rift, this one here, Eduardo Serra, is pointing towards that card, as you can see here, means she is under suspicion, and that card would then be discarded back to the deck. And it's worth mentioning that anytime a sort of higher rank card disappears, the lower ranks will slide up to fill that slot. So let's go ahead and get into the first round, and you'll see more about how that works. But again, based on the event, I need to sway one founder, and I am going to sway Natalia Wu. Because doing so, no, actually I'm not. I'm going to sway Valentina Rojas because it says her ability. No, because if I do that, he'll be under suspicion, so no, that's not worth it. Okay, then I am going to sway her. And now I've got 2 actions. My first action is going to be swaying Valentina. And I have one more action. This is not a rift card, so I can't discard them to change the destination. She's pointing down. Both of these would allow me to change the direction of the arrows. Ah, wait a minute. No, I've got a better idea. But it's not going to matter because then he's pointing there. I don't have enough actions. Okay. Both of those would allow me to change the direction of an arrow, but that is my second action, and I wouldn't be able to use it in any way at all anyway. But I see here that Tammy Gomez has an up arrow. So if I swapped her for her, then she could be up arrow to him and sway him later. So I'm going to do that, replacing a Rift Founder. So she goes to the bottom of the deck, and Tammy Gomez comes in like that. Suspicion, there are no Directorate cards pointing to either of my Rift cards, so we are safe for right now. And that means that's the end of the round, so the ship is going to move to the next location. And this is our first move phase in a round because we did skip this in the first round. And the way that this works is, after moving, the old Elder Generation is going to die off. And then we're going to replace them with a young generation that matches the side of the card of the cards that have died off. So since both of these are Directorate, he gets placed here, she gets placed there, and then these both get discarded like that. Then after doing that, we're going to check the event, which this time says Mutiny, discard the captain. So Sebas Kim is going away like that. Means this card slides up like that. And then the next thing we're going to check on each of our event cards is this little section over here. And this shows the top highest rank row of my founders. And I'm going to look for this orange card. And if the card in that location is a Rift Founder, then they will be discarded from the ship. So in this case, again, looking at the top row, I'm checking the third card here. This is not a Rift Founder, so nothing is going to happen. They stay there. And now I take my two actions. And I see that if I leave it like this at the end, he's a Directorate pointing to her, she'll be discarded. She's a Directorate pointing to her, she'll be discarded. So I need to do something about both of those things in order to protect them. And the way that I see that I can do that is, I can use Natalia Wu to sway this guy here. And he's safe because this guy's pointed down. And I only have one action left, but hers says move any midlife founder to the young generation. So I'm going to move her there, in which case she's out of damage space or damage area, and it means that on the next turn I can sway her. There's no suspicion happening because he's pointing down and she's pointing over, neither of which are pointing at Rift Founders. And I'm going to pause here for a second to explain the last thing I need to talk about. I said that in order to win the game, this has to be flipped over, which it does. And that we need to have enough Rift Founders in our ship. And the way that works is we need to score at least 6 points. And the top row is going to be worth 2 points for each Rift Founder. The second row will be worth 1 point for each founder that is Rift side. And every row below that is worth nothing. So in the current situation, this is 4 points because she doesn't score anything. And again, I need to have at least 6 points in order to win the game. So that means in the current situation, even if this planet had been flipped, I would not be able to win because I don't have enough points. So that's the end of the round. Moving forward to the next location says, move the captain to the midlife generation. But before I do that, I'm sorry, I have to do this. She's going to die off and be replaced over here by one more character. And we always have to make sure there are 6 characters on the board. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only. So I do have to place out one more card. Always in the young generation, always Directorate face up if they were not already Rift. Like that. Then it says move the captain to the midlife generation, which is not great. They're off the screen, but I'll show you what happens in a minute. Then I'm looking at the center location right here to kill off. He's not Rift, so we're okay. Then I don't like this guy being here. The only danger right now is that Ivan is pointing here, and that will be a problem. So if I can sway him right now, that saves us for right now. I also don't want to convert them because I can see in the next round that card will be killed off if it's a Rift. So I'm going to use Tammy's ability that says move any midlife founder to the young generation, moving herself like that, which means he's going to slide up and fill in. And then my second action is she's pointing up, so I will sway Ivan like that. Checking for suspicion, he points down, she points over, we are okay. Move to the next location. Again, we didn't have any elders to die off. We already have 6 cards, so nothing's going to happen. It says replace each midlife founder from highest to lowest rank. Okay, so Sebaskim gets replaced. Medina gets replaced. And then Cammy gets replaced like that. We're getting close to here, and I don't have anybody. I don't have this destination flipped yet. So I'd like to get him flipped, although it's not going to matter because in the next generation, she's already good. Move Elder to midlife. Flip the next card in the timeline. Don't care. In fact, I do not want to flip him because if I do, they're going to become the young generation that's getting eliminated next turn. If I can flip her, that's great. Replace an adjacent founder, don't need to. But I do like this. The influence arrow on one rift founder points in the opposite direction this turn. But opposite doesn't help. No, opposite doesn't help. Replacing the rift with her doesn't help either because she's pointing to the right. And that, wherever I put it, is going to get rid of them. Move Elder to the midlife. So any reason not to put them over there? Well, if I put him here, whoever fills in there, but nobody's going to fill in there because that'll be midlife. Yeah, I don't like it. All right, well, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to replace her with Natalia because then she's pointing to the right and can sway somebody, and then move any elder founder to the midlife generation, which means I'm going to put him there. Yeah, they slide up like that. We move to the next location. These two are going to go bye-bye. So we got one there. Flip that one there like that. Okay, then we're checking here for a rift founder. There isn't one, so we're safe for now. Influence arrows extend beyond adjacent founders. Means that she can reach this one and this one. But I'm not going to. I'm going to convert him. You know what? Actually, I might. Yeah, because then I can convert her as well if the influence arrow extends beyond. I'll flip her as well. Now in this situation, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. I do have enough points, but the destination hasn't been flipped yet. We're out of actions. This moves to the next location. These 3 go away. Whoops, yeah, that's fine. All 3 of them are like this. And she goes under. And it says you can only take 1 action this turn, but also this person just got taken out. Like that. I can only take 1 action. Means my 1 action is get rid of that guy. Because now this one flips. And unfortunately right now, that's 2, 4, 5. We don't have enough points. There's no suspicion. We will move to the next turn. This is the final turn. If I can't get enough points by the end of this turn, that is game over. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's nobody dying off. But we only have 4 cards. So we're going to place out 1, 2 like that. Which is a little bit of a problem. There is no event phase. I need to get the 6 points. Suspicion is an issue. Because I only have 2 actions. I need to flip him. Move any midlife founder to the young generation. No. I need to flip him. This is tricky because these two are dangerous because they're attacking them. But realistically, I only need one sway. Ah, yeah, but that's dangerous. I think we're not going to win. Move any midlife founder to the young generation. If I move her here, then she can sway her, but then she's going to get changed. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't matter because these don't score anything. I don't think I have enough stuff. This one says sway the lowest ranked founder in the generation, then flip this card. So I can sway one of them, but then he doesn't become anything. I think we're out of luck. So I'm going to move any young founder to the elder generation. Oh, but he can replace anything next to him. Move any elder founder to the midlife generation. No, that doesn't help. And she's pointing up, so even if I replace something, she doesn't help me. There's no next card in the timeline. Yeah, I got not so great results with the characters. So I'm just going to do what I can. Move any young founder to the elder generation. Doesn't matter. She slides up. And I can now either move her again to here, or I can say that her arrow is pointing in the other direction. Either way, let's do that. Using the same thing, move any young to the elder generation. Now, if I had one more action, I could sway. But I don't. So we finish with 2, 4, 5, and unfortunately that's not enough to finish the game as a win, so this is a loss. That said, this game does offer a different difficulty level as well as an alternate sort of starting condition. So I'm going to reset everything one more time to do one more quick playthrough on the advanced level or the more difficult level with the alternate starting condition. So give me a second to reset and I'll be right back. All right, so here we are all set up for the more difficult mode with the alternate starting condition. Let me show you the alternate starting condition first. Now we are leaving from Mars instead of leaving from Earth, and this says Sleeper Agent. Replace any founder with the top card of the stack rift side up. And then also, the difficult mode starts us with this sort of broken down version of La Oruga, and we have to sort of repair the ship before we can finish the game. So before I can flip over the destination planet, I need to accomplish this. And it said this card must be flipped before changing course, have 3 founders in a row, 3 rift founders in a row to flip this card. So while I'm building my founders here, if I ever have 3 rift founders in a row, and this way, horizontally or vertically, I will be able to flip that as a free action. It doesn't count as an action, but I need to do that before I can flip this planet. So this is a more challenging version of the game, but let's see if we can succeed in this challenging version where we didn't succeed in the standard rules. So I get to replace this card in any of these spaces rift side up. So I should put it somewhere so she's pointing to somebody so I can get them flipped. Top is better than bottom. If I place her there, she can sway him and he can sway her, and nobody's pointing at any of those 3 because they're all pointing away or at each other. So let's do that. Ivan goes bye-bye. Sophia comes here as my starting event. And then my 2 actions are sway this guy here and sway her down here like that. Done there. No suspicion is happening. This moves over. This generation dies off, which means we're going to replace them on the other side with 2 rift founders. Like that, and I think we're just about to get really lucky because she's going to sway, hold on, before we do that. Yeah, we just got less lucky, but still lucky. Okay. Event says influence arrows point in the opposite direction this turn. So they're actually going to all be pointing opposite direction. And this is not so lucky. She is going away because she just got caught there. Means she slides up. Ooh, also not so lucky. Remembering everybody's pointing in opposite directions. So she's left, she's down, she's up, and she's right. Then, I can do all kinds of things. The problem is the next event says discard the captain, which doesn't make me happy. With any midlife to the young generation, that's not going to help. All right, so let's do this. First action is replace her. He goes there. And then he's going to activate her for my second activation. Ah, no, because everybody's pointing in the opposite direction. I don't want to discard the captain. All right, so we're going to do that instead. Flip the next card along in the timeline so this happens. Ah! But then she's going to get killed. I don't like it. I don't like that at all. We're not going to do that, actually. Captain goes bye-bye. That's too bad. I don't really want to replace anybody else. And I can't sway there because he's pointing the opposite direction. So I'm just going to say nothing happens. That's where we're pausing this turn. We move to the next stage or location. Sylves goes away and gets replaced on this side, and we're one short, so we get another one there. Like that. Discard the captain. So she goes away. Like that. And we're looking here to kill, but there's nobody in trouble, nobody there for me to worry about. Then, yuck. Well, I'm going to sway her. Move any midlife founder to the young generation. I don't think I care. I don't. Elder founder to the midlife. Yeah, I'm going to, and this is kind of silly. I'm going to cross my fingers. I'm going to replace, but she's up. That's a problem. I'm just going to say replace him using this. But then she's going to be pointing up and get rid of whatever's happening there. I don't like it. Well, I'm going to use her action to replace her like that. And this goes away. That's my two actions. We move to the next round. She dies off, which flips her like that. This is good. Okay, because now he gets killed, but there's not a rift, so he stays fine. I only take one action this turn, but that one action is flip him. And he's safe because this suspicion is not a problem. Means I can flip this for free. Because I do now have this row here like that. That's the end of the turn. Next step here, they go away. She's here, like that. They go out. We are only at 5. Hold on a minute, that's a mistake. Because she should have been placed there as well last time because we didn't have enough characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was a mistake, I caught it. Okay, then. This one comes out here, and this one comes out here like that. Swap the highest and lowest rank elder founders. Okay, so those two get swapped. But that's cool because first action is sway him. Hold on. She goes bye-bye. That slides up. Then, first action is sway here. Second action, discard him to flip the planet. This one slides up here. Suspicion is safe. I've got 2, 4, 6. The planet is flipped. We just won the game. Now to find our total score, we did score 6 points from these cards. And you're going to count the number of locations that you didn't go to before winning. So we still have 2 locations ahead of us. So that's 2 points plus 2, 4, 6 is 8 points total. Then looking at the back of the box, or the inside tab of the box, we can see here that with 8 points, we are in the second level here, which says, "We are as the tide." So that is a pretty good win on the difficult level. So we got pretty much killed by the normal level, but I did fairly well on this difficult mode. So now you've basically seen everything there is to gameplay in this game. Normally in this place, I'd like to take a look at the components. Now this is officially a prototype version of the game, although this game will be hitting crowd sale today, actually, as this goes live on the Game Crafter. And this does look like it is a copy of the game from the Game Crafter, so it should be fairly final version of the game, though might be some tweaks before it gets sent out to the backers or the buyers of this game. Looking at the artwork, you've seen it on the table. I love the sort of overall aesthetic of this game. It's very sort of sci-fi futuristic. Reminds me of a lot of sort of 80s, 90s sci-fi space kind of movies as far as the look goes. The event cards for me look really cool. I like this sort of vague, people doing things sci-fi-ish and different kinds of, I don't know, logos and visuals that definitely bring to mind that sort of genre of 80s and 90s sci-fi movie. I do love the kind of weird color shift that's going on in a lot of these images. Same thing, these planet cards, they look very nice. They do what they need to do. The sort of information that's printed on the cards is very nice. The ship looks pretty cool. If I have any small complaints about the way it looks, is the sort of Founders cards. I like the way they look. I like the overall aesthetic of everything. The red and the orange flipping, changing alliance thing works for me. All of the iconography, all of the text on the cards works very well for me. But there's something about the sort of slightly color shifted photo look to this. I don't know if I would have preferred sort of illustrated people on the cards or more other stuff going on in the images on the cards, but something about the photograph imagery on here makes it feel a little bit more prototypey than I'd like. Now, granted, this is a self-published kind of game, or at least a small publisher kind of game. So the art budget's probably not huge, and aesthetically, as I said, I am very pleased with the way that the game looks in general, so I can't really pick too much on that. It's just a little bit of a personal preference that the pictures, the photograph quality of it makes it feel a little bit less than finished, but again, I enjoy the overall aesthetic. The card quality is pretty nice. Again, this might not be the same card quality that you get, but assuming that this came from the Game Crafter, which I'm pretty sure it did, the quality should be pretty much the same, and it does feel like it's got a little bit of a linen finish to it. The cards are nice, flexible but firm kind of cards. Nothing to complain about as far as the components go, aside from that small little quibble with the artwork. The game itself does come in a Game Crafter hook box. So we've got sort of the rules of the game here with a little bit of setup up here. That introduction story I wrote you is over here. Some keyword terminology is printed over here, and the whole thing folds up like this to hold the cards inside. You'll see that there is a little QR code on the back of this box. And that's because the rules that are inside the box that I just showed you printed on the inside are sort of a pared down version of the rules. The QR code here will link to the official version, the full version of the rules, and you are going to need to use that your first time because there's a little bit lacking in the setup here and a little bit lacking in some of the rules in here, and the rules online are a little bit better at explaining everything. Although the setup I did notice was a little bit confusing as well online, but it makes sense. And once you've learned the game, the rules as written here are enough to sort of remind you to refer back to as you're playing. But again, the first time you play, you are going to want to use that QR code here on the back to learn the game. And well, now you've got my video as well that hopefully should be helpful as well. So that's basically all there is to show you for the components. This is the cover of the box, which again, I really do love the logo or the design. The text that they use here is very evocative as well. Again, the general aesthetic is something that I'm really pleased with. I do really enjoy. So meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the gameplay itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. This game for me came out of nowhere. I was approached by the publisher of this game, who I know through the Button Shy Discord, because I've taken a look at some of his other stuff in the past, most specifically Tides, the game he published with Button Shy. But he had this little 18-card game that's sort of a companion piece to his own game, ExoBase, that's coming to the Game Crafter as a sort of crowd sale. And he wanted to know if I'd take a look at it. And knowing him and knowing that I enjoy spatial puzzle 18-card games, I decided to jump at it. And I'm definitely glad that I did, because I'm enjoying this one quite a bit. First off, thematically, it's really cool that you're sort of playing as part of this rebellion, trying to stop this ship from going to where it's going, because there's already inhabitants on the planet and you don't want to sort of take over in an aggressive colonization style way. So you're trying to sway the sort of founders of the ship to your side and ultimately change the destination of where you're going. And you're doing all of this through a really cool, unique spatial puzzle game, but it really thematically and mechanically works together. And what I mean by that is, you've physically got this ship that's sort of flying across this timeline or this event line across your table. And what it's doing is, as you're going along your trip, of course there's events that are triggered, events that are happening as you go, which is really cool because, you know, this sort of represents the journey of the ship, and of course things are happening on ship and around you as you're going on this journey. And then while you're there on the ship, you've got this sort of representation of the people on your ship, and it's broken into generations, which is really, really, really clever. There's the elder generation, the middle generation, and the young generation. And going through there, every time the ship moves, time is passing, right? This is a long interplanetary excursion, journey across space. And every time the ship moves, time passes. And the elder generation dies off and a new young generation replaces them. And the fact that they did this mechanically such that a set of cards goes away and a new set of cards comes in, and they're not the same cards as the ones that have left, but they have sort of left their legacy. So the people who are dying are the legacy for the people who are being born or who are coming in new. So if they were still the directorate or the bad guys, quote unquote, then they're coming back in that way. And if they had been swayed to your side, the rift, then they come back in that way. And this idea of sort of old stuff dying off and new stuff coming in is really cool in several different ways, because thematically it works really well. But then as part of the spatial puzzle, it's really clever too, because you're not just looking at a steady grid that's always staying the same, where if I move this here and I move this here, then that works together like that. Because every time I move something, then the end goes away and the beginning comes back again. And now you've got this cool loop where I can't really be sure of where things are coming because new things are coming ahead. And I really have to think tactically, turn by turn. How am I going to set myself up good, sort of long-term strategy-wise, but then how can I turn by turn tactically play with what I've been given or what has happened since the last round? And this balance of long-term strategy and turn-based tactical thinking is really a whole lot of fun, because you also have to pay attention to how are the events changing things up. And then after the event, you've got that thing where it sort of removes one of the cards if they are a Rift member. So you've got to plan around dealing with that event, not losing as many people as possible with that Rift member being removed in certain locations or certain generations. And this idea of this puzzle is a really, really cool one, because then the core concept is, and I haven't really talked about this yet, I should have said it sooner, I think, probably, but the current concept of this is that you're basically swaying cards or flipping cards based on adjacency. If this card points to this one, then it flips. If this card points to that one, then it flips, and so on. But then again, on top of that, you've got this idea of this sort of rotating group of cards so that everything's not always going to be the way that it was before. And then some events make the arrows switch direction. Some events make the arrows go all the way across rather than just adjacent. And this sort of spatial puzzle of who can sway who, and then also, more importantly, at the end of every turn, if the red cards, the directorate, are pointing at any of your Rift cards, then your Rift cards go away. So you need to do your best to make sure your cards are pointing at bad things, but bad things are not pointing at your cards. So there's this two-level spatial adjacency puzzle with this looping sort of generation puzzle with the added ability or the added twist of the events every turn. And then there's a ticking time limit because you have to do it before you get to the planet. But then more than that, you have to make sure you've switched the planet to a different location before you get there. So you also at some point have to sort of sway or have to have your Rift team as the captain of the ship, because that captain of the ship is ultimately going to decide what the destination is. So once that captain of the ship decides what the destination is, well, guess what? Now everybody knows he's Rift because he's just changed the destination. So he's gone. Again, very thematic tie to the mechanisms in this game. So you've got a captain, you turn them Rift, Rift changes the location, that captain gets kicked out because they know he's a bad guy or a good guy on your turn, but a bad guy as far as the director is concerned. And then you got to kind of do it all over again, because now you got to rebuild up for the guy that you just lost, because in order to succeed, you have to have enough guys on the ship that are sort of fighting to get to that destination so it doesn't get turned back again. And it's a really, really cool thematic mechanical puzzle mashup that I just really, really enjoy playing. Now, is it a challenge? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It is a little bit easier than maybe I'd like it to be, but again, the puzzle is so much fun and it plays so quickly that even if you get a really easy playthrough, you just set it up again and play again. And then also in my playthrough, I did do 2 playthroughs. The second playthrough, I showed you the more difficult mode. Now, whether you start on Earth or Mars doesn't really change things. It just makes the game a little bit fresh because the starting of the game is a little bit different than it is otherwise. But in any case, you start the game by flipping one person to a Rift side. So it doesn't really matter which way you do it. It just changes things up a little bit. But the difficulty change by sort of needing to spend time to repair your ship before getting to where you're going really does add another nice wrinkle to this puzzle, despite making it a little bit more difficult. Because now, while I'm manipulating this puzzle to make sure that I'm getting as many Rift members as possible, that I am eventually swaying the captain so the captain can change the destination, I'm also trying real hard to build a puzzle or a pattern in that shape. I need 3 of a kind this way or 3 of a kind this way of my color or of my Rift members. And that does add another level of fun, because now it's not just about getting things to work out. Now it's about getting things to work out in a specific pattern as well. And I love spatial puzzles, and I love this additional element of spatialness, if that's a word, to this puzzle. And I think from now on, playing this, now that I have played it as much as I have, I will continue to play this on hard mode only because, again, that addition of this sort of 3 in a row tic-tac-toe kind of puzzle, in addition to all of the other stuff that's going on, really does make it more challenging and also quite a bit more fun than it is just in the normal mode. And does that make it a little bit more difficult? Yeah, it does, but it's still more fun. And sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's really not. And that's one small thing that I might complain about in this game, but not really a complaint, but something you should definitely know about going in, is that there is quite a bit of randomness. Now, there's not a lot of cards in here, so there's not a ton of randomness, and the more that you play, the more that you understand the kinds of events that could come out, the more that you understand the different characters that you've got and the different abilities you've got to work with, and the more you play it, the less random it becomes, because you start to see ways that you can manipulate the game that you may not have seen otherwise, but you're still going to get helped or hurt by the order that the cards come out, by the order that the events come out, and so on, right? If I have all cards that are pointing in one direction and I get one guy rifted, then everybody else slowly becomes a Rift member. Just because the way that the cards came out was the right sort of orientation of arrows to get things changing and to get things going. And you'll see that my playthrough of the hard mode was maybe a little bit easier than my playthrough of the easy mode, simply because of the way that these cards came out, or maybe because of decisions that I was making that I didn't even realize I was making. But the point is, sometimes you get lucky that the arrows are pointing in the right way, and sometimes you get unlucky with bad arrows, or the event that flops all of the arrows when you don't want them to flip, and so on. So there's definitely randomness to this game about whether it's going to be challenging or not challenging, depending on how the cards come out. But it's never like super easy, and it's so far never been punishingly hard. It's always been close when I lose. And again, either way, the puzzle is a whole lot of fun to churn through and try your best to make it work out. And even if it doesn't, just going through the motions and playing through this journey is a whole lot of fun. I again have to commend these guys on the integration of theme and mechanisms here, because it really, really is a clever game in only 18 cards. I'm having a whole lot of fun with this. I mentioned this game is on the Game Crafter or coming to the Game Crafter for a crowd sale. If you watch this when it goes up, this is the same day that the Game Crafter crowd sale should be starting. I'll put a link down below to that sale for you to hop over and check it out. If not, definitely do your best to track this one down. I imagine with an 18 card game, this is one that's going to come back, especially as a Game Crafter game. You should be able to grab this pretty much any time. But again, use that link down below for the crowd sale now, and if it's not going on when you get there, you may still be able to purchase a copy of the game anyway. I hope that this video was helpful for you. As always, if you did enjoy this video, I ask that you like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.